When I was a child growing up in India, I was exposed to the poetry of the great Rabindranath Tagore. I've carried his poems with me all my life, some in tattered forms and torn books. But one of the quotes that I remember very clearly was the following: that I exist is a perpetual surprise. I'll repeat that. That I exist is a perpetual surprise. So, why aren't we surprised by the fact of existence, and also by the fact that we are aware of existence? Not only is existence a mystery, but the awareness of existence is even a bigger mystery, because if we were not aware of existence, then we would know existence. Awareness of existence is existence. So why aren't we perpetually surprised by this? And the fact seems to be that we are so consumed by daily tasks and routines that we get used to seeing, hearing, and experiencing the world. And then this becomes the background noise. And so for many people, existence and awareness of existence are vast concepts. It's a challenge to wrap our minds around them fully, unless we were brought up without the hypnosis of social conditioning, or at least we were told that everyday reality is the hypnosis of social conditioning. This concept of not being aware of reality is referred to as avidya in the yogic traditions. Avidya translates to not seeing or ignorance. Ignorance. We ignore the reality for the appearance of reality. So, ignorance literally refers to the illusion that separates us from the true nature of reality, which is, as I've said before, oneness. Taking existence for granted is seen as part of this illusion. There are similar concepts in other traditions. Wu Wei in the tradition of the Tao, Wu Wei means effortless action. It emphasizes living in harmony with the natural flow of the universe. And appreciating the wonder of existence can be part of that harmonious existence. So what happens? Well, as soon as we are born, we are introduced to an interpreted world, a conceptual world, a world that appears as reality, but is actually just the appearance of a more fundamental reality. So, going deep into this, it is important to understand that we are born into a world of raw sensory data: light, sound, pressure, etc. And then the conditioning starts, the social conditioning starts, that creates a new neural landscape which interprets this data to create our experience of the world, including our experience of the body. Colors, sounds, and even solidity wouldn't be inherent properties of objects. In fact, they are not inherent properties of objects, because objects as such do not exist. So what is raw data? It is just those five senses: sound, touch, sight, taste, and smell, and then the interpretation of that, which creates the human universe. So the world that we experience is a pre-interpreted world, and it's fine, because if we don't subscribe to the pre-interpreted world, then we become irrelevant. We don't know how to navigate the experience of the human human universe. The human universe includes this body, this mind, and this perceptual reality. And through interpretation of raw perceptual moving experience, we somehow create the world of objects, which includes our bodies and also our minds. Our mind, intellect, ego are part of the interpreted world. To be surprised by existence is actually to question the interpreted world and find ourselves as the source of the interpreted world, the projected world. And in doing that, we go back to what is called pure consciousness. This is through mindfulness of five senses, mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of the interior of the body, mindfulness of the space that we call mental space, mindfulness of the web of relationships, self-inquiry, and ultimately transcendence. We go back to the source of all experience, which is pure awareness, which, as I've said before, is infinite possibilities, infinite correlation, infinite organizing power, infinite evolution, infinite imagination, infinite creativity, infinite insight, the source of all attention, intention, and every experience we can possibly have. This source is incomprehensible, unimaginable, infinite, formless, borderless, spaceless, timeless, without cause, and it is who we are. When we go there, we have returned home, but not only have we returned home, we are perpetually surprised that we exist and grateful that we exist. And in that gratitude comes the knowing that our true self is the self of the universe. There's no compromise. The self, knowing itself, is every possible space-time event in the universe. The knowing of the self, self-awareness, or awareness of awareness. And let's understand that awareness, presence, effortless being, timeless being, infinite being, that awareness is indestructible and the source of everything. Its entropy, its symmetry breaking is the appearance of the universe, which is you and me. But going back to the source, we have the flexibility to revise what we call reality. Well, I hope you understand my rambling. Otherwise, I'm still having a good time. It's like somebody singing in the shower and not worrying who listens or what they think. As the great poet Rumi said, I want to sing like birds sing, not worrying who listens or what they think.